You know, I don't think it's any secret that this channel here loves retro video games. I've been playing them, well, since they were brand new. And most times when I talk to you guys about video games on this channel, specifically retro ones, I'm talking about physical media forever, right? But there's something to be said as well for digital gaming, and specifically on a modern console like the Nintendo Switch 2. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay. Welcome to Square Pegs. Glad you're here. And today, we're looking through the archives of the Nintendo Switch Online service, all of the different online gaming that they offer, and we're talking about some hidden gems offered in those digital platforms. So let's start things off on the NES, where it all began for Nintendo.
All right, so we're going to start on the NES, and I figure we'll start with one from Shigeru Miyamoto himself, and this is Devil World. Now, as far as hidden gems go, I should say that this is probably more of a classified hidden gem, and some of the games on here are more classified than others. I think this is more kind of like, if you're going on Switch Online, a lot of people kind of gravitate towards the big hits, and there are some lesser-known games on here as well that I think deserve to be played, and Devil World is definitely one of them. It's a very interesting take on a maze game. It's a little bit like Pac-Man in that regard, but it's not exactly like Pac-Man because there are certain things that you have to do to be able to eat the dots to get through the map, which I think is really clever. The look of the game is really fun. It can be a little bit frustrating with the way that the level moves around, but in all honesty, I think it's a pretty genius design once you get a hang of it and once you kind of figure out exactly what you need to do. The movement is great. The different level designs are fun. The things you have to do to move through them, like eventually you have to like pick up different Bibles and plug them back into the middle of the level to, I guess, seal the demon gate, is pretty cool. I just think it's a fun game. It's a very simple, easy to play game, and it's not something that's going to tax you mentally when you want to play it, so definitely check this one out if you haven't played it. I think it's worthwhile. All right, next up is Big Run from Jaleco. This is on the SNES. Now, this is one that I didn't know that the Dakar Rally was a thing until I actually got the Dakar game on the GameCube in a Video Games Monthly release, and had no idea that this had been previous video games as well, and Jaleco made one on the Super Famicom over in Japan, and this game is wonderful. It's a very well-designed racing game that feels a little bit like Outrun, a little bit like Rad Racer, where you're going point A to point B to do this race from Paris to Dakar in Africa. And as you go, you're going to encounter obstacles, other cars on the track, you're going to need to dodge them, use your high gear and low gear and your brakes to make sure that you're getting through the level correctly. And one of the things I really dig is that you have a time limit for each section of the race you're on. But whatever you have left over gets tacked on to your next level, so if you perform well, you're going to give yourself more time to complete more levels as you go, and I think that's a really awesome mechanic. Does it break any molds? No, not really. Like, I think it's a pretty self-contained and self-explanatory racing title, but I love it. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it's one that if I didn't have the Switch Online service, I never would have known about this game. I never would have played it. It's definitely worth checking out if you like racing games. All right, this is one that I used to own when I was younger on my NES, and I didn't like it when I was a kid, but there's something about it today that for some reason as an adult I love, and this is City Connection. City Connection is a little bit standard platforming single-screen arcade fare, a little bit minor 49er from the Atari 2600. It's really clever. So you're playing as a car. The music in the game is spectacular, first off. I love the music in this game. And what you have to do is you have to drive your car over every block on the level to fill it in. Now, that would be easy enough. You'd be able to figure it out. But as you go, you're going to have different levels that you're able to jump to, and there's going to be obstacles on the course that you need to avoid or collide with, as I tend to do. And for some reason, I hated this when I was a kid, but I absolutely love it today. This is one of my go-tos on the NES Online service because it's just such a simple, easy-to-play game. It's a really classic title. It's a really, I think, one that a lot of people are familiar with the NES, but I don't ever hear people talk about it. So I really enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. I definitely think it's a hidden gem for the NES Online service because, again, most people are going to be gravitating right towards stuff like Super Mario Bros. 3 or Star Tropics. This is a little bit more obscure and a little bit more overlooked, and I think more people should play it. All right, hopping over to the Sega Genesis now, and one of my favorite Genesis games is from Capcom, and it's called Mercs. If you've been on the channel for a while, you know I'm a huge fan of the Commando series. I love the original Commando, either in arcades or on the NES. I love Bionic Commando. I love Commando 3, Wolf of the Battlefield on the Xbox 360. And I loved Mercs. And I didn't actually know that Mercs was part of the Commando line until a few years ago when it was kind of like the light bulb went off. I was like, oh yeah, no shit, Jay, of course it is. It's a really solid game. It's a top-down kind of run-and-gun shooter, a little bit like Jackal in that regard. So it's a shmup, but it's a very contained, very controlled shmup. The gameplay is very easy to understand. You move through the level, you defeat the enemies, you blow up the bases, you blow up the vehicles that are trying to attack you. You're able to get vehicles yourself the further into the game you go. There's power-ups and bombs and things like that, and it's just really solid 16-bit fun. It's a game that everyone has played a million times, but there's so many different coats of paint and so many different iterations of this type of game that it can be easy to overlook. And that would be a shame if you overlook something classic from Capcom, especially on the Genesis, which didn't see a ton of Capcom stuff released for it. It's a really solid title and something that I think is a really excellent game. All right, back over to the Super Nintendo now, and this is the Peacekeepers. This is a beat-em-up that I had never played before it arrived on the SNES online service. And I am a sucker for beat-em-ups, I won't lie to you. I do love them very much. They're some of my favorite types of video games and one of my favorite genres, but this is one that for whatever reason I had just overlooked. And I think there's something to be said for perhaps not really recognizing the box art as something worth checking out, and I think that is definitely a case. But in-game, it's really fun. There are 4 or 5 different characters you're able to choose from. Each one plays a little bit different, and it's just a solid experience. Now, is it as good as something like Streets of Rage or anything like that? No, it's not as good as Streets of Rage or Final Fight or anything like that, but for kind of like that second-tier beat-em-up fun, this is definitely well worth checking out. I've had a lot of fun playing this one, and I think that this is something that maybe not a lot of people have played, because I've legit never heard anyone talk about this one, so definitely check it out. It's unfortunate that we didn't get the name in Japan over here. It was called Rushing Beat. That's much better than the Peacekeepers. Peacekeepers sounds kind of silly, but, well, I guess Rushing Beat does too. But fun game, though. Definitely check it out. All right, shout out to LL Cool Game's son, Victor, on this one, who told me all about this game. And this is one that I had never heard of. And his excitement and enthusiasm over this one made me want to play it. This is Joy Mech Fight from the Famicom. This is on the NES Online service. This was released over here in the States. Don't let the overwhelming amount of Japanese text dissuade you from playing this, because the game is magnificent. It is so easy to understand. It's a beautiful fighting game, and it's just amazingly simple while being utterly complex as well, because there's a bunch of different characters you can choose from. Each one plays differently. Each one has different powers and different abilities. And while it is a fighting game, and you wouldn't think that would necessarily translate well to 2 buttons, what's going on, tournament fighters, this one works. The gameplay is solid. The animations in the game are top-notch, some of the best I've seen on the NES. It's a little bit Rayman in that regards, or a little bit Vector Man on the Genesis, which also easily could have been on here, but I cannot tell you how good of a fighting game this is. For something that was built on archaic hardware on the NES at a time when already amazing 16-bit fighters like Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat were releasing, this eclipses some 16-bit fighters. This game is spectacular. It is one of the best games on the NES Online service, and everyone should play it. To the Genesis now, and this is Alisia Dragoon, which is a game that I always wanted to rent when I was younger, but I had never played it. And it wasn't until I got the Sega Genesis Classics collection on the Switch, the pack with 40 different games in it, that I ever really tried it out. And I really enjoyed it, and I was happy to see it added to the Switch Online service for the Genesis, because this is a great platforming kind of action game. Play as a sorceress, you're able to power up your spells, you have different familiars that can fly with you and attack as well. And the gameplay loop is pretty satisfying and pretty enjoyable. The look of the game is wonderful, especially for it being an older Genesis game. I think this originally released in 91 or 92, something like that, so like 3 years into the Genesis run. And the gameplay is really good. Like it's something where I look at it, and for something that could have been very simple and very easy to kind of back out of and not really do anything aggressive or ambitious with, that's the word I'm looking for, I actually think they got to someplace really solid, because the different upgrades you're able to get for not only Alisia herself, but the different familiars is really fun. You're able to swap your familiars on the fly as you go. The storyline is nothing to write home about, but the gameplay itself is the reason you're going to come to this game and enjoy it. And I think that is really a testament to what the game's design was, because For something that could have been easily forgotten or easily overlooked, they made something really solid. And I mean, it was, I guess, easily forgotten and easily overlooked because I don't know a lot of people that have played it, but it's good. You should check it out. This one's probably not so hidden as much as it is kind of the red-headed stepchild of the 3D games. So everyone knows the Phantom Reverie series from Klonoa. They released on the Wii and the PlayStation. There was also the remaster on modern consoles. But this one here, Klonoa Empire of Dreams, released on the GBA, and it's one of those games I've heard a few people talk about, but it's not the one I hear people talk about when they discuss the character of Klonoa. And that's a shame because this is a wonderful game. It is a fantastic representation of that core Klonoa gameplay system on a GBA, on a 32-bit console. So rather than, it being kind of just like bog standard platforming, what you do with Klonoa is you're able to grab characters or grab enemies and you're able to jump with them and then use them to boost up higher. It'll make you jump higher. And then you're able to kind of flutter in air a little bit with his weird little skunk ear things. What is Klonoa? Does anyone know? Let me know in the comments down below. The gameplay, though, is really fun. Each level you go in has a series of objectives you need to complete. You need to collect certain items in order for the doors to unlock. And the enemies in the game aren't necessarily aggressive, but they're a nuisance. So it's almost a puzzle platform where you need to kind of work your way through and figure out exactly how you need to approach each level to make it to the end. I really enjoy this game. I am a big fan of the Klonoa series in general, like as a rule. I like the whole series, but I actually think this might be the best entry in the series. Okay, this one, this has the most unfortunate name, I think, of any game that changed from Japan to America. So in Japan, this was called Final Mission, which is a magnificent name. And in North America, it's called S.C.A.T. Now, that means something, but it also means something, if you know what I mean. This is a shmup. This is a shmup where you play as a cybernetic trooper. I believe it's a cybernetic attack trooper. Yeah, sorry. I'm referencing what SCAT stands for. And it's a really good game. This one's from Natsume, and it's a really, really solid title. You are able to move your character all around the screen, and it's kind of free-flowing in that regard, where you're able to shoot both forwards and backwards. Like any good shmup, or any shmup worth its weight, you're able to collect a bunch of different power-ups, and as you go, there's going to be tons of enemies on screen that you need to defeat. I mean, stop me if you've heard this one. It's pretty standard as far as like what makes a good shmup good. It has all of that. Where I think this one sets itself apart, though, is the fact that you are able to move in that free-flowing motion around the screen. By being able to fire forwards and backwards on screen, having a ton of different enemies that seem, at least in my not expert opinion here, but just kind of like me kind of playing it and kind of noticing, it feels like they have different weaknesses as well. So if you fire at them from behind, they might blow up a little bit easier than if you're just firing at them from the front, which I think is kind of clever. Now, that could just be placebo effect or me just kind of looking at it and going, oh, this is happening, when it's not, but I felt like it was, and that's all that matters to me. Feelings are important, folks. This is a really solid title, though. This is a really excellent example of what the NES could do with shmups. Really, really fun game. Check this one out if you haven't played it. And finally, one of the strangest named games on the SNES, and this one I absolutely did not play when I was younger because of the god-awful box art. This is Operation Logic Bomb. Kind of like Mercs, this is a run-and-gun shooter where you're moving around a little bit like Jackal. And the thing I really like about this game is that it's got a heavy sci-fi undertone. So you're playing as a guy who kind of like beams into a base, and there's different robot enemies and things like that that you have to defeat. There's big bosses that look really cool on the screen, and the gameplay is just fun and well made. Like, this is an incredibly well-designed game that doesn't miss a beat. Like, everything in this game works. The exploration of the levels is paced out just enough where you're not overwhelmed with enemies at all times, and when they do pop up, it's like an oh shit moment, and you have to jump on it to attack them, because they will just beam in, like any good sci-fi game. It's a really, really awesome title, and something that I wish I had played sooner in my life, because just that dumb title and that stupid box art just made me overlook it. This is one I'm going to try to find physically, because I think it's a really solid game. Have you played Operation Logic Bomb? Let me know in the comments.
There you have it, some hidden gems on the Nintendo Online service. There's some excellent games on there. I know there's been a significant decrease, a drip feed, if you will, of titles released for the Nintendo Online service, but that doesn't change the fact that there's some quality on there. Let me know in the comments down below, what are some hidden gems that you feel are available on the Switch Online service? Any console is available, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you're new here, and until next time, remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.